Today's reading is chapter 18, verses 19 to 24. And it starts and ends a little confusingly. The high priest questions Jesus, and then Annas sends him bound to Caiaphas, who is also the high priest. It seems that there were probably two high priests during this time. One, Annas, a high priest who'd been chosen by the Romans and the political overseers of Judea. The second, Caiaphas, someone who had been high priest earlier on in his life, and who, according to their law and in spiritual authority, they saw as the true high priest. But that's the least of the confusing bits in this story. They question Jesus about his disciples and his teaching. His disciples, because they're worried he's going to bring about a political revolution, that he's bringing together a crowd of followers to overthrow the rule of the Romans. His teaching, because they worry about the spiritual revolution that he brings, that he calls himself God's Son. He reveals himself through the I Am to be something beyond what they have experienced and known so far. As they question him, Jesus starts to pick apart this process. Firstly, he says, there were so many witnesses. Why don't you call them? It was normal, and it was written down in their practices that they had to question witnesses before the defendant. Jesus says, I have no secret agenda. I didn't say something different to my disciples and to the crowds. You know what I said. There is nothing to question me about. I taught publicly. He's struck by someone who is offended by how he speaks to the high priest. And Jesus says, why hit me? Testify. Bring your accusations. Why resort to violence? Jesus famously taught that we should turn the other cheek and love our enemies. And here, he stands up for himself. He questions their process. He highlights where they are wrong, where they are hypocritical. He highlights that he deserves a fair trial. See, to turn the other cheek is to always do the right thing. He doesn't respond to violence with violence, but Jesus stands there knowing that he is following the Father's will. And when you are following the will of the Father, you can withstand whatever pressure is put against you. Jesus is here being tried at the high priest's house, and in the courtyard are two of his disciples who aren't called forward and definitely don't put themselves forward to testify on his behalf. I hope that today's reading speaks to you about how Jesus responds under pressure, his focus on the journey set before him, his desire to always do and see what is right. And I hope that speaks to you today.